Hi guys, my name is Rue, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to tell time on the astronomical clock. Now if you're thinking, this is the Nancy Drew account, why am I learning this? Well, one, 'tis the season of back to school and all things learning, and two, if you played our most recent game, Nancy Drew, Mystery of the Seven Keys, you would know there's a pretty challenging puzzle that has to do with the astronomical clock in Prague, where the game takes place. And since I had a helping hand in making this super fun puzzle, I thought what better time than to make a video that teaches you all about the third oldest astronomical clock in the world. So let's go. Believe it or not, this clock actually tells time in 4 different ways. Bohemian time, German time, Babylonian time, and sidereal time. But since we only used Bohemian time and German time to solve the puzzle and key, those are the 2 that we're going to be learning today. Let's start with Bohemian time, or also known as Italian time or Old Czech time, as this was the way they told time over 500 years ago. For Bohemian time, we're going to be focusing on the outside ring here on the clock, where the gold hand points to. The easiest way to explain Bohemian time is imagine the end of the day or midnight being sunset instead of 12 a.m. So this time still uses a 24-hour system, but it's set a bit different than our current clocks in order to calculate how many hours of daylight will be left in a day instead of a specific time of day. Notice how some of the numbers in the Bohemian time ring may look a bit different. I'm looking at you, 4 and 7. The reason those numbers are different is because those are actually Gothic numerals, and unlike Roman numerals, they only change the 4 and the 7 and don't involve any letters. And the reason the 24, or the end of the day, is where it is not a mistake. The inner part of the clock where it's blue is meant to represent the hours in the day where the sun is up, or daytime, and this darker section below is representing when the sun is set, or nighttime. So using our clock example, the gold hand is pointing a bit past the 17. And if you subtract that from 24, that would mean you have about 7 hours of daylight left in the day. Are you still with me? Okay, now let's move on to German time. German time, or also known as civil time on the astronomical clock, is told using these Roman numerals here. This time is a bit more similar to the common wall clock, but instead of showing only 12 hours and cycling through those twice, it includes all 24 hours in a day and only has to loop through them once. Going back to when I mentioned that the blue part of the clock represents daytime and the darker part represents nighttime, you can see that the 2 here, for example, would stand for 2 p.m., as that's during the day, and this 2 would represent 2 a.m., as that's in the middle of the night. Now going back to our example, you can see where the gold hand is pointing to, and just below that with the Roman numerals, you can see that the line is going right in between the 12 and the 1 in the blue, meaning it's roughly 12:30 p.m., perhaps 12:34 p.m. Alright, so now we figured out how to tell time on the astronomical clock, right? Oh, right. We still gotta learn about the Zodiac ring. If you remember from a couple different Nancy Drew games, such as the Curse of Blackmore Manor, these symbols represent the astronomical signs or constellations that represent different times of the year. I'll include this chart here to show the beginning and end dates of each astronomical sign. The reason for this ring being on the clock is to also give a rough estimate of the month and date. So not only does this clock tell time, but it also acts as a calendar. And the 4 sections divided by the lines on the zodiac ring are meant to represent the different seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. With the top point here representing the summer solstice, the bottom point representing the winter solstice, and the points on the far left and far right representing the spring and summer equinox. The way that we can tell what astronomical sign or what time of year it is when reading the clock is by whatever sign is currently under the sun symbol here, as that means the sun is passing through that constellation in real time. Looking at our chart, we can tell that the sun is on Taurus, which happens from April 20th to May 20th. Notice the notches around the zodiac ring? There are about 72 notches with about 5 in each constellation, which is meant to represent 5 days that go by, which will help us get that estimated date. I would say that the sun is a bit after that first notch, which tells us that it's a few days after the 25th of April. Let's call it the 28th of April. Important note here is that this isn't going backwards. The zodiac ring just happens to revolve counterclockwise. So now we have our estimated time being 12:34 p.m. and our estimated date being the 28th of April, aka Nancy Drew's birthday. Another important thing to note here is that no matter what time of year it is, the time on the clock will always remain the same. Because, and to quote the wonderful Riley Poole, daylight savings was not established until World War I, and this clock was built many years before that, in the year 1410. So now that we've gotten through our fun little lesson for the day, let's put those skills to the test. Can you guess what time and date this could possibly be on the clock? Leave your guesses in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something new today. Stay tuned to learn more about the mains calendar or the bottom half of the astronomical clock, as well as some fun behind the scenes on the making of the astronomical clock puzzle and Nancy Drew Mystery of the Seven Keys. Ahoy!